We're here on a final hearing. Ms. Gutierrez is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram is representing the child. Mr. Adams is covering for Mr. Jackson, representing the father, Mr. Horn, who I don't show is with us. And Ms. Lucero is with us covering for Ms. Christie, representing the mother, Ms. Ron, who is with us. Ms. Rivera is with us, representing the intervenor, Ms. Bowles. Ms. Rivera, is your client with you?
She's in the blue, and her name also says Hannah Rivera.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. All right, so Ms. Bowles is also with us. Ms. Gutierrez, you may proceed.
Your Honor, could I have I'm standing in for Miss Christie, and
Yes.
I was going to see if I could speak with Miss Ron. I'm not even sure how to pronounce her last name.
Yeah.
If I could have a breakout room with her, please, for just a bit.
Sure.
I've spoken with Miss Rand, and she has I believe she'd been thinking about signing relinquishment papers. I've talked to her. I don't have her paperwork, of course, in front of me, but I went over what a standard document is, and she would like to see if it'd be possible for her to go up to the CPS office today and sign that paperwork.
No, I don't have a problem with that. Ms. Gutierrez, do we want to go ahead and proceed on the father today?
Well, let's see if we can put a timeline on this, Your Honor. I apologize, Ms. Lucero. I'm very grateful that you spoke with your client, and we are willing to give you guys time, Your Honor. To inform the court, we did send a proposed relinquishment several months ago. I've followed up with it on periodically, and it never got signed by Ms. Ron. If we could possibly, go ahead and start and then recess the hearing till maybe 3 or 4 this afternoon. I don't know how much time Ms. Ron would need to get over to Ms. Lucero's office and sign that, but I am very reluctant to agree to any more time past today, Your Honor, because of that reason.
Well, let me ask you this. Go ahead.
The last 5. I was gonna state that I don't have a notary here. That's what I was gonna have her go up to the department's office, because normally they have the witnesses and they have the notary to get that done.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have other conflicts, or could you meet her at the CPS office and take care of it today?
Your Honor, I do have other conflicts. I have an appointment at around that time that I really can't move.
Okay, all right. Well, we've got until July. I mean, I can recess this case for just a matter of a day or two. I don't know.
And Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I don't envy your position, Your Honor, I especially with us objecting and the mom wanting to relinquish. Maybe we could go ahead and have the hearing today, and if the court could hold off on ruling on Tabitha Ron's termination grounds.
Yep, here we got
for a few days.
We've got a new twist. Robert Horn just showed up in the waiting room.
Oh.
Mr. Adams, have you had a chance to talk to Mr. Horn?
No, Your Honor, I have not, and I don't think Mr. Jackson had a chance to talk to him either.
Okay, well, you want to visit with him just like Ms. Lucero did?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
All right, let's get him in first. He's still connecting to audio. Well, now it looks like he's dropped out. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and hear the case. Haley informs me we've got next Monday at 9:30 open. Let's go ahead and let's hear the case, and then we will recess until next Monday at 9:30 if either one or both parents have signed an affidavit of relinquishment. Let me ask this, Ms. Gutierrez, if one or both the parents do sign an affidavit between today and next Monday at 9:30, is the department willing to waive other grounds to terminate and terminate only on the affidavit of relinquishment?
Tippy, would that be agreeable if the parents relinquish to waive other grounds?
Can we talk about this for a minute?
Sure.
Your Honor, can you put us in a breakout room, please?
Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay. If you could add Christina Hunter to that breakout room as well.
Do you have any contact information for Mr. Horn, how we could try to get a hold of him real quickly?
I can try.
Okay, if you would, I know we tried to get he came into the waiting room and somehow he fell out.
I can message him on Facebook Messenger. That's about
Okay.
the only way how to get a hold of him.
Okay, well, I'd appreciate if you try. We're going to have a little bit of time here anyway, so if you don't mind, if you would let him know that I know that he was trying to get in. Yes.
My client, Ms. Bowles, she has a contact number for Mr. Horn. Don't know if it's up to date, if you'd like her to also To try and reach out to him.
Sure. I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt before we go forward without him. Yeah, I'd appreciate that if you could do that.
Okay, I'll have her give him a call.
Thank you.
Hey, Your Honor, are we all back? Okay, now we're all back. The department is in
Hang on.
agreement
Let me
on the condition. I'm sorry.
I need to close out these rooms.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. The department is agreement on the condition that the parent that a parent signs a relinquishment of parental rights and has it correctly notarized and all of that. That in that event, we would waive other termination grounds on that specific parent. That being said, Your Honor, we are requesting that if Tabitha does sign relinquishment paperwork, whether it's at our office or another office, that she have an attorney present with her to do that.
Okay.
And we are in agreement with the court's plan to have the hearing today and to reconvene on Monday to allow each parent more time to get that accomplished.
Okay. All right,
Your
Ms.
Honor, if, yes,
ahead.
Your Honor, being that I'm not actually her attorney of record, I would ask if possibly we could just put some testimony on and recess the case and then give the parents an opportunity, just like a week's time, to get that paperwork signed without a full-fledged, hearing, but I'll leave that to the court.
Well, no, I want some. No, I'm going to hear the case and then I'm going to rule next Monday whether or not the parents show up again or not.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to give Mr. Horn the same opportunity that I'm giving Ms. Ron. If she signs an affidavit of relinquishment before next Monday when we reconvene, then I'll consider that, and I will, unless I hear something that's just out of the ordinary, I'll terminate solely on that affidavit instead of other grounds. So, and the same will go for Mr. Horn. Mr. Adams, I'll keep watching the break. I'll keep watching my waiting room to see if he comes in.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, then. All right, Ms. Gutierrez, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. The department calls Rodolfo Flores as its witness.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Flores, do you also go by Rudy?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Who do you work for?
I work for the Department of Family Protective Services.
And what do you do for them?
I'm an investigator for the department.
And is the mother Tabitha Ron?
That is correct.
Now, at the time of the removal, there were two alleged fathers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And they were Brett Hudson and Robert Horn. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you aware that during the case, Robert Horn was found to be the biological father?
I was not aware of that.
Okay, but are you aware of it now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Did you receive an intake on the child on July 11th of 2022?
Yes, we did.
What were those intake allegations?
The intake alleged that mom had delivered Abigail and both were positive for methamphetamine at the time of delivery.
Okay. And based on that, did you visit Baptist St. Anthony's Hospital?
Yes, I did. I made contact with the family at the hospital.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, we offer petitioners exhibit number 1. They are specific pages from the birth records of the child.
All right. Any objections?
Your Honor, I was going to object to that. I believe there's, like Teresa said, there's just various pages, but I'm going to object to hearsay, and I'm going to object to incompleteness.
I didn't print them off, but from the exhibit I got, it was 275 pages. Is that still just partial pages?
No, I believe they've attached approximately like 20 pages or 20 something pages, right, Teresa?
Yes, Your Honor. You might have an older exhibit there. I apologize for whatever mix-up has occurred. We did select, I think, a total of 19 pages plus the affidavit for that. I don't have a problem with Ms. Lucetto's objection if the court sustains it. I can go back. It'll just take me 3 minutes to get everybody a copy of the full records as Ms. Lucetto is objecting to. In addition to that, and further response, they are accompanied by a business records affidavit. A 90210 notice did go out at the beginning of the case several months ago. And as well, they are statements made towards medical care. So I believe they meet more than one hearsay exception, Your Honor.
All right. Well, I'm not going to sustain it as to hearsay, but I will sustain it as to being incomplete records. If that's what you want, Miss Lucero, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get 275 pages of
Your
it.
Honor, like I said, I don't have access to the Odyssey. I was objecting. I did not know. I just wanted to make sure that this affidavit was filed prior to 14 days to today's date. So if it has been filed prior to 14 days to today's date, I'll go ahead and just withdraw my objection on that.
Okay, has it, Ms. Gutierrez? Because I didn't print it because the only one I saw was 275 pages.
Yes, Your Honor, a 902-110 notice was filed, and that was filed on August 8th of 2022.
Okay, all right. So then and how many pages do you say are in this on the new petitioners one?
On the new petitioners one, I'm going to label it petitioners 1A.
Okay,
And that is a total, including that affidavit, it's a total of 276 pages.
okay, then if Ms. Lucero's withdrawn her objection, then petitioners one will be admitted.
Now, Rudy, you visited Baptist St. Anthony's Hospital on July 12th of 2022, is that correct?
That is correct.
And in speaking with Ms. Ron, how did she respond to your concerns and the intake?
Ms. Ron was upset that the department was involved.
Okay, and who did she identify as possible fathers?
She indicated that it was going to be either Mr. Brett Hudson or Robert Horn as fathers.
And in your conversations with Ms. Ron, did she indicate that both Robert Horn and Brett Hudson had histories of methamphetamine use?
Yes, it was indicated that both had a history of methamphetamine use.
Okay, and did you also discuss the results of her drug test during the child's birth?
Yes, we had a discussion about her testing positive and the child testing positive there at the hospital.
And that was for both for methamphetamines, correct?
Correct.
And what admissions did she make about methamphetamine use while pregnant?
Tabitha advised me she had been using methamphetamine on a daily basis. At the beginning of her pregnancy, she was using on a daily basis multiple times a day. She was unsure if she was going to go forward with the full pregnancy. And then when she determined that it was already too late to have an abortion, that's when she decided to go ahead and start weaning herself off of drug use. She was able to wean herself off down to a couple of times a week.
Okay, so it sounds like Ms. Ron tried but was unsuccessful in getting completely clean during the pregnancy. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did she indicate when the last time that she had used?
She said she had last used about 2 weeks prior to delivery.
Now, regarding Robert Horn, did you have any discussions with Mr. Horn during the investigation?
I did.
Okay, and did he discuss any history of methamphetamine use either?
He advised he had prior history of methamphetamine use as well.
Okay, and did he also disclose that he had just gotten off parole?
Yes, he did.
Now, under these facts, where you have an infant testing positive for methamphetamine, one parent, a mother, who tested simultaneously as a child positive for methamphetamine, and two alleged fathers, both with histories of methamphetamines, was it determined that the child would be in immediate danger if returned home?
Yes, it was.
And were there any reasonable alternatives to removal that could be explored by the department?
There was not.
Now, as far as Ms. Ron, she had within the last 4 or 5 years another child removed under those same circumstances. Is that correct?
So we had received another intake because she did test positive at the time of delivering another child. Correct. But the department was not involved in that removal process or custody issue.
Okay, but was custody given to a third party other than Ms. Ron?
Yes, another third party did request custody, and another court granted custody
Okay.
of that child.
Your Honor, we ask for judicial notice of the order establishing the parent-child relationship, giving primary managing conservatorship of Isabella Ron to someone other than Tabitha, and that's in Randall
Okay.
County Cost.
All
And I
right.
believe I emailed this out to Haley and the other attorneys for their review as well, indicating I would be requesting it.
Okay, all right. Okay, I will so note.
During your investigation and prior to the adversary hearing, did any of the parties complete drug screens?
Yes,
Who did?
we received the drug screen from Tabitha, Mr. Horn, and Mr. Hudson.
Now, regarding Tabitha's drug screen, did hers come out positive for methamphetamine?
Tabitha was positive for methamphetamine.
And that was on a hair follicle?
It was a hair follicle, correct?
Your Honor, the department offers petitioners exhibit number 2. It's drug screens of Ms. Ron during the case, including the one just testified to. There is an affidavit for business records accompanying them, and a 902 notice went out more than 14 days ago. Now, following the removal of the child, did Tabitha also decline to complete a urinalysis drug screen?
That is correct. We had asked for a hair and a urine sample, and she declined the urine.
Pass the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Flores, how soon after the child was born did you speak with Ms. Rand at the hospital?
Child was born on July 11th. I spoke with them July 12th.
Okay. Do you know whether or not Ms. Rand was under any kind of medication at the time that you spoke with her?
I do not know.
When you did go speak with her at the hospital, was she forthcoming with information? Was she cooperative?
Yes, she was.
And at that time, did she advise you that she wanted what was best for her child?
Yes, she did.
And besides the you talking with her there at the hospital, and how much contact did you have with her besides the visit at the hospital?
After the visit with the hospital, we maintained contact by phone. I'm not sure exactly how many times we had contact again.
And as far as you know, did the child have any issues after birth? Any medical issues?
There was some poor feeding, and then there was some irritability that was noticed after birth.
But nothing substantial in your reports. Is that correct?
Further than that, than what I mentioned, no, I have no knowledge of anything else.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Flores, you stated that during the investigation, you had found out that there was prior use by Mr. Horn. How did you find that out?
Whenever I spoke with the parole officer, they indicated that he had recently drug screened for their office.
Who was the parole officer? Do you remember?
I do not remember at this time.
You also testified that just after the baby was born, there were drug screens of Tabitha and Mr. Horn.
Correct.
Is that correct? Did Mr. Horn actually give a drug screen?
Correct. He was only able to provide a urinalysis. He did not have enough sufficient hair for a follicle.
Okay, how did that test come back?
He did come back negative. I apologize. He was negative on his urinalysis.
But he didn't do a hair follicle?
Correct.
Okay. During your investigation, did you do any other drug screens on Mr. Horn?
No, I did not.
Did you talk to anybody else about Mr. Horn's prior history, criminal history?
I spoke with him about it. I spoke with his parole officer about it.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Ms. Rivera?
I have no questions for this witness.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
Anyone have follow-ups?
Yes, Your Honor. Rudy, when you spoke with Robert Horn about his criminal history, did he indicate he had been on parole since 2010 for possession of a controlled substance?
Yes, he did.
Did he also admit that that substance was methamphetamine?
Yes, he did.
And in that same conversation, did he admit to a history of methamphetamine use?
Yes, he did.
Now, at that time, he claimed that his last use was in February of 2019. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And discussing that with his parole officer, did the parole officer disagree with that date?
Yes, the parole officer disagreed with that. The parole officer indicated he was positive for methamphetamine.
I'll object as to hearsay.
Sustained.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, anyone else? All right then, can Mr. Flores be excused?
He may be excused, Your Honor. Christina, who do you work for?
I am employed by St. Francis Ministries.
And what do you do for them?
I am a permanency specialist.
And how old is the child at this time?
Abigail, I believe, is 9 months.
And where is she currently placed?
She is currently placed with Crystal Bowles.
And is Crystal Bowles an intervener in this lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, as a part of being the caseworker, did you create service plans for Tabitha Ron and Robert Horn?
I did.
And were those service plans reasonably tailored to the issues in the case?
Yes.
And were they uniquely tailored for each parent?
Yes.
Your Honor, we offer Petitioner's Exhibit 3, the status hearing order, as evidence.
All right, any objections?
Objection, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
Now, Christina, do you have Petitioner's Exhibit? Do you have a copy of the status hearing order with you?
I can pull it from my records. Yes.
Okay, let me email this to you. Just a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Did that status hearing order incorporate these service plans, and were those made in order of the court?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give me examples, 2 or 3 examples of tailors uniquely and specifically chosen for Ms. Ron?
One would be for Ms. Ron to reach out to a community resource that would aid her in seeing a medical physician that could aid in getting her high blood pressure under control, as well as the individual counseling for herself. And then I also wanted her to complete an OSAR evaluation as well.
And that OSAR evaluation, is that a substance abuse assessment?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And was that particularly important considering the facts surrounding removal? Can
Yes,
you
ma'am.
also name 2 or 3 services uniquely selected or tailored for Robert Horn?
Yes, ma'am. One was also for Robert for the OSAR evaluation because of his previous methamphetamine usage. Individual counseling for him as well. And parenting classes as well.
Okay. And that OSAR, again, was that a substance abuse assessment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Now, were these service plans a reason the department's reasonable efforts to return the children to the family?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you go ahead and briefly identify each service for Tabitha Ron and state whether or not it was completed?
Yes, ma'am. Tabitha was to locate and maintain stable housing. That was not completed to my knowledge. Maintain stable and appropriate employment. That was not completed. Tabitha was to attend a financial stability class. This was also not completed. Actively participate in complete parenting classes. This was not completed. For her to seek out, sorry, I apologize, to reach out to community resource to aid in her medical concerns. That was also not completed to my knowledge. Individual counseling, that was initially set up, but not completed. Rational behavior therapy was also not completed. The psychosocial assessment was not completed. And the OSAR was also not completed. And part of it was also one part of the requirement for the family plan is to comply with the family plan and any amended services that St. Francis deems appropriate, and that was also not completed.
Now, as far as the drug screens, was she also ordered to maintain a drug-free lifestyle and abstain from the use of illegal drugs?
Yes.
Did that service plan also notify her, or did you notify her that failure to take a random drug test on the date requested would be considered a positive by the department?
That was also included in the family plan.
Okay. Can you go through each date that she was requested or court ordered to drug screen?
Yes, ma'am. Tabitha submitted for a hair follicle on 7/16/2022 with a positive result of amphetamine at a level of 2,293 and methamphetamines at 21,174. Tabitha submitted as requested for a UA on 8/1/2022 and was positive for amphetamines. There was no levels that were reported on that, and methamphetamines at 737. Tabitha was also ordered to drug screen on 8/28/22 by 4 p.m. on 8/29/2022 during court, and Tabitha did not submit. Tabitha was requested to drug screen on 9/29/2022 by 4 p.m. on 9/30/2022. Tabitha submitted for a UA as requested, but came back with a positive of amphetamines and methamphetamines for 2,890. Tabitha was requested to drug screen on 10/27/2022 to report before noon on 10/28/2022. Tabitha did not submit as requested. Tabitha met with a worker with me on 11/20/22 and admitted that she was still using methamphetamines. Tabitha was requested to drug screen on December 7th, 2022 before 4 p.m. on December the 8th of 2022. Tabitha did not submit as requested. As of December 19th, 2022, she had either not tested or as requested or tested positive. Tabitha was also requested to drug screen on 1/9/2023 before 4 p.m. Tabitha stated that she would not be testing and she did not submit. Tabitha was requested to drug screen on February 8th, 2023 before 4 p.m. Tabitha did not submit. And Tabitha was requested to drug screen on 4/12/2023 before 4 p.m. on 4/13/2023. And Tabitha unfortunately was non-responsive at that point.
Now, the drug screens ordered on August 29th, 2022, was that in the status hearing order?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, that was not complied with, correct?
That is correct.
And she was also court ordered to drug screen on January 9th of 2023 at the initial permanency hearing. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was not complied with as well, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, as far as visits,
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt you. Mr. Horn has joined us again, I guess. It comes in under Robert Home, but I'm assuming that's him. Mr. Horn is gone again, so let's go ahead and proceed.
thank you, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Hunter, what about visitation with the child? Well, for Ms. Ron.
In the very beginning, Tabitha attended our visit. She was having 2-hour visitations face-to-face with Abigail. Tabitha did miss 1 week's visit due to Abigail being exposed to COVID and her needing to quarantine in the beginning. Tabitha interacted and held Abigail at each visit. However, had to end the visit on 8/8/2022 early due to Brett being sick at that point. Tabitha and Brett would both attend the visits together. At the status hearing, it was ordered that visits were to cease without a clean drug screen. And so she had not seen her daughter since past that point.
Okay. And since then, has Tabitha provided any clean drug screens?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did the family plan of service also order that she would sign a release of information to St. Francis?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did she sign that relinquishment?
I believe she did actually, yes.
Okay. Now, did Ms. Ron make any statements regarding her ability to care for the child? I'm sorry, Your Honor, did you say something?
Yeah, let me interrupt again. All right, I've let well, he's still trying to connect to the audio. I assume this may be Mr. Horn, so let's give him one more chance. Mr. Horn, this is Judge Graham. If you'd unmute.
I think I got it figured out.
All right, Mr. Horn, for the record, reflect Mr. Horn's finally joined us. We've been in this hearing for quite some time. He had tried a couple of times to get in that I saw. Mr. Horn, your lawyer, Mr. Jackson, is not present. He has Mr. Adams covering. Have you had any conversations with Mr. Jackson?
No, sir.
You had any conversations with Mr. Adams?
No, sir.
You want me to put you and Mr. Adams in a breakout room and let him tell you what's going on here?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, Judge, we're back.
All right, it appears that everyone's back. So, Ms. Gutierrez, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Has Ms. Ron discussed her ability or inability to take care of Abigail with you?
Yes, ma'am, she has.
What statements has she made?
She has told me that she does not feel that she could provide as quality of life as her current placement can.
Okay. And what has she stated in regards to drug use and the effect it would have on her parenting?
She has stated that as of the moment, she's not prepared to get clean and sober. And so she knows that would not be in Abby's best interest.
Thank you. Now, regarding Robert Horn, you earlier named some specific services for Robert Horn. Can you go ahead and go through his service plan in the status hearing order and briefly identify each service and state whether or not it was completed?
Yes, ma'am. Robert will actively participate in complete parenting classes. This has not been completed. Robert will provide information to the department within 5 days of any changes in residence, phone number, or employment. This has not been completed. Robert will maintain a drug-free lifestyle and abstain from any use of illegal drugs or drugs for which he does not have a valid prescription. This has not been completed. Robert was supposed to participate in an OSAR. This was not completed.
And again, may I interrupt you? The OSAR is a substance abuse assessment, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please continue.
Robert will actively participate in complete rational behavior therapy. This was not completed. Robert will attend individual counseling. This was not completed. Robert will comply with the family plan of service and any amended services St. Francis deems appropriate. This was not completed. Robert will sign a release of information for St. Francis Ministries. This was not completed. Robert will participate in show up for visitation with Abigail. He was participating in service with visitation with Abby in the very beginning. But after the order that was made at the status hearing about the clean drug screens, he had not seen her since. And I believe that is it. Yes.
So let's talk about that status hearing order. Did that status hearing order set out the conditions that Robert would need to meet to restart his visitation?
I believe so.
Do you have the status hearing order in front of you?
Yes.
Can you please turn to page 6 of that status hearing order and tell us what those conditions were?
It is ordered that Robert Horn shall screen by hair follicle and urinalysis by 4 p.m. on August 29th, 2022 at Care Express, 2329 Ross Osage Drive, Amarillo, Texas. It is ordered that Robert Horn's visitation with the child is suspended until Robert Horn provides both a negative hair follicle drug screen and negative urinalysis drug screen to the department.
And did Robert Horn ever provide a negative hair follicle and negative urinalysis drug screen to the department?
No.
Okay. But Robert Horn did drug screen for the department a little bit after that hearing on September 3rd of 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time, we offer petitioners exhibit number 5. It is the drug screen result of that hair follicle drug screen. It is accompanied by an affidavit of business records, and the 902 notice went out greater than 14 days.
All right, objections?
Your Honor, I would object if it doesn't have the experts' documentation with it.
All right, that'll be overruled. That's why it's got a business records affidavit attached to it.
Now,
I'm sorry, petitioner's 5 is admitted.
thank you, Your Honor. Now, Christina, as far as this drug screen that we're discussing about Robert Horn, is this the only time he drug screened while you had the case?
Yes, ma'am.
And this drug screen was positive for amphetamine, methamphetamine, and marijuana metabolite. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
After this drug screen, did Robert Horn drug screen for the department again?
No, ma'am.
Can you please go through the dates that Robert Horn was requested or ordered to drug screen in this case?
Robert submitted for a UA on 7/17/2022 with a negative result. Robert was ordered to submit for a drug screen at the adversary hearing and did not complete the screen as ordered. Robert submitted for a hair follicle on 9/3 of 2022 with a positive result of amphetamines at 1,802, methamphetamines at 34,153, and marijuana metabolite at 3.9. Robert denied any drug usage and claimed that it was a faulty test at that point. Robert was requested to submit for a drug screen on 10/24/2022. Robert did not submit. Robert was requested to submit for a drug screen on December 7th, 2022 by 4 p.m. on December 8th, 2022. Robert stated that he would not be submitting. As of December 19th, 2022, Robert had not completed his services or participated in any service. Robert refused to meet with a worker or participate in any services until paternity was determined or he was granted an attorney. Robert was requested to submit for a drug screen on January 9th, 2023 by 4 p.m. on January 10th, 2023. Robert was non-responsive and did not submit. Robert was requested to submit for a drug screen on February 8th, 2023 by 4 p.m. on February 9th, 2023. Robert was non-responsive and did not submit. Robert was requested to submit for a drug screen on 4/12/2023 by 4 p.m. on 4/13/2023. Robert was not responsive.
Now, do you recall receiving that DNA test report that showed Robert Horn was the father of Abigail in December of 2022?
I do.
Do you recall what date you shared with Robert that he was indeed the father of the child?
Give me just a second to refer to my record. December the 20th.
And following that, did Robert initiate any service?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And after he was appointed an attorney, did he initiate any service?
No, ma'am.
Now, of those drug screens, the drug screens for August 1st of 2022, August 29th of 2022, and January 9th of 2023, those were all court ordered, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time that he saw the child?
I know it was in August of 2022. I don't have a specific date in front of me though.
Okay, but it's several months. Has
Yes.
he had any virtual or phone communication with the child since then?
No, ma'am.
Has Tabitha had any visitation or communication with the child since her visits were stopped in the status hearing order?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you believe that the department has made reasonable efforts to return the child to the mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that the mother failed to regularly visit or maintain significant contact with the child?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that the mother has demonstrated an inability to provide for the child with a safe environment?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you also believe that the child was born addicted to a controlled substance according to the family code?
Your Honor, I would object. If she's not an expert on that, Your Honor, I'd object to her opinion on that issue.
The same.
Do you believe that the child tested positive for a controlled substance, namely methamphetamine, at the time of birth?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the mother also test positive for methamphetamine in that time frame at the time of birth?
Yes, ma'am.
And did the mother admit to the investigator as well that she was using methamphetamines during the pregnancy?
It was in the removal affidavit. Yes, ma'am.
Now, regarding Robert Horn, do you believe that the department and St. Francis made reasonable efforts to return the child to the father?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that the father failed to maintain regular visits or maintain significant contact with the child?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe he has demonstrated an inability to provide the children with a safe environment?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that the mother, Ms. Ron, has failed to comply with the provisions of the court order that specifically established actions necessary for reunification?
Yes, ma'am.
And has the child been in the care of the department for greater than 9 months?
Yes.
And do you believe that the child has been in the care of the department for greater than 6 months?
Yes.
Can you please give me a detailed answer in why, well, strike that. The child is currently placed with Krista Bowles, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please give us a detailed answer of how she is doing in the care of Krista?
She's thriving. She is a very happy baby. She is pulling up. She's starting to build her confidence. She should be walking and terrorizing Krista very soon in the walking aspect of things. She's eating. She's healthy. She's amazing.
Is she meeting her milestones under Krista's care?
Yes, she is.
Is Krista the primary caretaker for the child?
Yes, she is.
And does Krista on a daily basis make sure that the child's necessities like food, shelter, education, and medical care are met?
Yes, she does.
Is the department asking the court to name Krista Bowles as the primary managing conservator of the child?
Yes, we are.
Can you please explain why?
Krista has had Abby in her care since literally she came out of the hospital. Abby is very bonded with Krista and her family. it would not be in her best interest to try to move her to another location or another placement, as Krista is all she's ever known. And she's very, very bonded and very well taken care of.
And what is Chris's plan as far as adoption for the child?
She would like to adopt her.
And is she wanting to do that privately as opposed to through the department?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe it is in the child's best interest that Tabitha Ron's parental rights be terminated?
Yes.
Can you please give me a detailed answer as to why?
Tabitha has not mitigated the reasons for removal. Drug usage is still something that she struggles with. And she has made it clear herself to me that she feels like it would be in Abby's best interest to stay with Krista as well.
Do you believe that Tabitha would be able to provide for Abigail's emotional and physical needs now and in the future?
Now, no.
Do you believe that Tabitha would pose a physical and emotional danger to the child now and in the future?
Now, no. I mean, apologies. Now, yes, because of the drug usage and the instability.
And for clarification, if she continued her drug use, she would pose a danger to the child in the future as well, correct?
Correct.
As far as Robert Horn, is it in the best interest of the child that his parental rights be terminated?
It is, yes. Can
you please give a detailed explanation as to why?
Robert has not demonstrated that he's able to mitigate the reasons for removal either. He, to my understanding, still struggles with substance use as well.
Okay. And again, the department and St. Francis consider drug screens that were not completed to be presumed positive drug screens. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that Robert is able to provide for the child's emotional and physical needs now and in the future?
No.
Do you believe that he would pose an emotional and physical danger to the child at this point if the child's returned to him?
Yes.
Do you believe that he has the parental abilities to raise and care for Tabitha in a safe and stable manner?
You mean Abigail?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Abigail.
No.
Okay. Pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lucero.
I just have a few questions, Your Honor. Ms. Hunter, you stated earlier that Tabitha stated that she didn't feel that she had the ability to care for Abigail. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but she never stated to you that she didn't want to be a part of Abigail's life, even if it was maybe just to see her now and then. She never stated that she didn't want to be a part of her life, did she?
I'm sorry, you're asking if she's ever asked if she said she never wanted to be a part of her life?
Yeah, she never wanted to be a part of her life.
She never indicated to me that she never not wanted to be part of her life. No, ma'am.
Okay. And then you stated that you were concerned that she could be a danger to Abigail now, right?
Yes.
Okay, but you didn't state that would be true for the future if she were to be able to get clean and stay clean. Is that correct?
I can't predict the future, ma'am.
Okay. But again, when you were asked if she would be a danger to her now and in the future, you only indicated that she'd be a danger now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And as far as being able to provide a safe and stable environment for her, your testimony was that your concerns are for now. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, as I cannot predict the future.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hunter, you stated that on 7/17 of 22, just after Abigail was born, that there was a negative drug test.
Yes, sir. I believe that was done with investigations.
Okay. Were you present at the adversary hearing?
I was, yes, sir.
Was Mr. Horn present at the adversary hearing?
Honestly, I can't recall.
For the record, Mr. Horn was present at the adversary hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor. You testified about Mr. Horn being adjudicated the father in December of 22. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did he indicate anything to you about wanting to talk to an attorney before he talked to you about anything else?
He had advised me that he was not going to participate in any services until he was either adjudicated the father and or had been appointed an attorney.
Okay. Do you know when he was appointed an attorney?
I believe he was appointed the attorney whenever we had that hearing that adjudicated him the father.
And was he there at that hearing?
I can't recall honestly.
Do you know when he was appointed an attorney?
I believe it would have been at the last hearing.
Okay. The drug test that you went through with Ms. Gutierrez, I just want to go through those real quick. In October of 22, you said that he didn't submit to a drug test. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you talk to him about taking that drug test?
Our communications were primarily via text message, but yes, it was communicated with him.
So you communicated to him by text message that he needed a drug test?
Yes, sir. If I texted him and I would call him.
Did he text you back or respond to that?
Give me just a second. I can refer back to my record. No, sir.
Okay, in December of 22, you stated that he didn't do a drug test that was requested. Is that correct?
Yes, on December 7th.
And how did you communicate with him to take that drug test?
I texted him phone call. And he did respond to me in text for that one.
He did, and how did he respond?
No, I won't be submitting, thanks.
And that was when he was still asking for a lawyer. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. In February of 23, you stated that he was requested to drug test. Did you communicate with him at that time?
In February, his communication had been primarily non-responsive after December, but yes, I did.
How did you communicate with him?
Text and phone call.
Did he respond?
No, sir.
In April of 23, did you communicate with him?
Yes, sir.
Was that also by text
Text and phone call.
and phone call? And did he respond?
No, sir.
So you don't know for a fact that he got those messages in February and April of 23. Is that correct?
Correct.
And since you haven't talked to him or been in contact with him, you don't know whether he's still having problems with drug abuse, do you?
As of today, all I have is based upon what the drug screens were that he had submitted for.
Okay. And the last one was in September of 22?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rivera.
Ms. Hunter, you said you couldn't predict the future, but Tabitha did tell you that she's not ready to get clean and sober, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And no indication of when she might decide to get clean and sober, correct?
That is correct.
And your concerns about the well-being of Abigail have to do with the fact that Miss Ron does drugs, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ingram.
Just to be clear on what the department's recommendation is, if I understand you correctly, the recommendation is that each of the mother and father's parental rights be terminated, that Krista Bowles be appointed as sole managing conservator, and that the department and all other court-ordered relationships be dismissed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
All right, does anyone have further questions for the witness?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Okay.
Ms. Hunter, as a part of the service plan, was Mr. Horn ordered to keep his contact information updated with you?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you did not have any updated contact information, that would have been his responsibility to fix and update, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
All right, anyone else? All right, then, Ms. Hunter, I believe Ms. Gutierrez probably covered this, but as far as the parents, would you say that the service plans that were created for them were reasonable efforts to return the child to them?
Yes, Your Honor.
And had they been working their services and done drug tests, given negative drug tests as ordered, would their visitation have been reinstated?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then. Ms. Gutierrez, did you have any other witnesses?
I do not have any other witnesses, Your Honor. I know that I don't know if now is a good time to recess since we are reconvening on Monday anyway, or if you want to proceed.
Well, I think the whole idea of going forward today is to get everything out of the way, other than if I see any affidavits of relinquishment on Monday, next Monday.
Yes, Your Honor. The department does rest. Again, the department will waive all other pled termination grounds only in the event in regards to Tabitha, that Tabitha signs a relinquishment. We are willing to proceed on that relinquishment ground of K only for her under those circumstances. And likewise for Mr. Horn, we are willing to waive the other termination grounds against Mr. Horn only on the condition that he sign a relinquishment of his parental rights as well. Then we would proceed on that relinquishment under the K ground only. Absent those relinquishments, Your Honor, we are asking for termination on the mother for D, E, O, and R. And on Mr. Horn, we would request termination on E, which is the continuous neglect. And in this instance, the department argues that Mr. Horn has neglected the child by continuing his drug use and not reinstating his visitation or making himself to be a safe and stable parent for the child to return to. And we likewise ask the court to consider terminating Mr. Horn's rights on the letter N for constructive abandonment.
Sarah, do you have any witnesses?
Your Honor, I don't have any witnesses. I was able to communicate with Ms. Rand during that break that we had. And her plan is that she knows that her daughter is doing well with Ms. Bowles, and she feels it's in her best interest for her to sign the relinquishment. I'm not sure what if Ms. Christie will be available before Monday, but if the department could send the relinquishment to Ms. Christie, and if it's okay with the court to send it over to me, just in case I can be there if Ms. Christie's not available, and assist Ms. Rand in getting that executed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then, Mr. Adams, any witnesses?
Yes, I'd like to call my client.
All right, Mr. Horn, if you'd
Mr.
unmute,
Horn,
please.
do you know why we're here today?
Yes, to see about the termination of parental rights.
Have you ever talked to your lawyer before today?
No, I didn't even know I had an attorney.
Were you at a hearing where an attorney was appointed for you?
No,
And you haven't heard from your attorney that you know of?
no, sir.
Okay. Are you sober right now?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that you could take care of a child at this point?
Yes.
Mr. Adams, if you would define right now,
Oh,
you mean, is he sober right at this minute, or?
yes, Your Honor. How long have you been sober?
2 months.
2 months? Okay. What is your intent regarding drug usage in the future?
Stay away from it. I mean, I'm actively in recovery, and trying to work the steps and do all that stuff.
Are you currently going to meetings?
Yes.
Do you remember getting texts from Ms. Hunter about taking drug tests?
The last one I got from her was, I believe it was sometime before Christmas. But I've changed my phone number since my phone number's been changed. So, and I don't think she has my new number. So,
Okay. Did you know that you were supposed to keep her updated on your information?
no, I wasn't given any instructions on that specifically. No.
Do you think the fact that you haven't had an attorney has been an issue in this case?
Yes. I mean, because I'm ignorant to a lot of stuff.
Your Honor,
going on, so.
I'm going to object to this line of questioning and request that the court take judicial notice that it appointed an attorney to Mr. Horn on January 3rd of 2023.
Okay, so noted.
Do you want to be in Abigail's life in the future?
Yes, very much.
And it's your position that you don't want to be terminated, is that correct?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Gutierrez, anything?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Horn, you were present at the adversary hearing on August 1st, 2022, correct?
I I couldn't tell you like right offhand if I was or not.
Your Honor, the court requests, or rather the department requests that the court take judicial notice that that order indicates Mr. Ron was present at that hearing.
Yeah, that's sustained. I can tell you, Mr. Horn, you were present.
Okay. I mean, if I was, I was. I don't remember.
Now, Mr. Horn, that hearing announced the status hearing on August 8th, on August 29th, 2022. That was the status hearing date that was given at that adversary hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that status hearing made several court orders, including making your service plan an order of the court. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in that service plan, you were ordered to work services and maintain your contact information with the department. Is that correct as well?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned going to meetings. What type of meetings are you going to?
AA meetings, NA meetings.
Okay. Are any of those steps, do those include taking responsibility?
Of course they do.
Okay. So do you take responsibility for not keeping the caseworker informed of your contact information?
I mean, I can take partial responsibility for it, yes, but I mean, I wasn't informed specifically to keep her in the loops of my contact information whenever it was changed. I mean, it wasn't something that was in writing or ordered by in court.
Would you agree that if that is in your service plan, that is in the status hearing order, that would be in writing?
Right.
And would you agree that that would be a court order?
Yes.
Now, what other treatment have you sought for your substance abuse issues other than Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous meetings?
None.
So have you done any inpatient substance abuse treatment since Abigail was removed?
No, ma'am.
Have you done any outpatient intensive programs for substance abuse since Abigail was removed?
No, ma'am.
Were you told, do you recall being told that Abigail was your daughter in December of 2019?
Yes.
And would you agree that following that, you changed your information and didn't update it with the caseworker?
Yes.
Your Honor, I hear somebody in the background talking.
There's somebody with you, Mr. Horn? Mr. Horn, is there somebody with you?
Not anymore.
Okay.
No, sorry, Your Honor. Mr. Horn, you indicated that you've been sober for approximately 2 months. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Would that put your last date of use back in March of 2023?
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree that that is several months following Abigail's removal by the department?
Yes.
Would you agree that in that time frame you did not get sober so that you could have visits with her?
Yes.
Would you also agree that in that time frame Abigail stayed with somebody who was not her parents instead of being with you?
Yes.
And would you agree that even after finding out you were the father, you did not initiate any services to get her back?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Ms. Lucero?
I have any questions for Mr. Horn, Your Honor?
All right, thank you. Ms. Rivera?
Mr. Horn, when was the last time that you spoke with Krista Bowles?
I think sometime in November, maybe. It was before Christmas, I know that, but I mean I was told by the caseworker to not get in contact, to not contact her, and that all communication would be done through St. Francis.
But you had her contact information, correct?
Yes.
And so when was the last time you tried to see Abigail?
Well, they told me my visitations were terminated.
Why were your visits terminated?
Until a clean drug screen was produced.
And
I tried to get a hold of Krista a few times, but I mean, like, they said no communicating. I wasn't trying to like get her in trouble or mess things up as far as I go.
And the last drug test you were willing to take was in September of 2022, correct?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Right, Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
Anyone have further questions for Mr. Horn?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Adams, did you have any other witnesses?
No more witnesses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Rivera, any witnesses?
Your Honor, I planned on calling Miss Bowles, but I believe that Miss Hunter covered most of what my line of questioning for Miss Bowles would be. So unless the court wishes to hear the same information from Miss Bowles, we just ask that the court approve our permission for leave to intervene, and we echo the department in naming her as permanent managing conservator.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there have been no motions to strike filed. And from what I've heard, the court grants permission for Ms. Bowles' intervention. All right. If there's no other witnesses, I do have one thing since Mr. Horn was not with us the entire time. And then Mr. Adams, if you'd unmute too. I don't want to get into attorney-client privilege. Mr. Horn, do you understand that we're coming back in this case next Monday?
Yes, sir.
Don't tell me what your lawyer told me, but I want to know I want to be sure you understand why we're coming back. Why do you think we're coming back next Monday?
To relinquish the rights, parental rights.
You understand that there's no one can make you do that.
Yes.
But you do understand why we're coming back next Monday.
Yes, sir.
You understand that if you choose to, the agreement that's been made, and you weren't with us, but the court announced that I would follow that agreement. The department has agreed that if either of the parents decides to sign a relinquishment affidavit, then we'll move forward solely on that affidavit and not on anything that I've heard today.
Yes, sir.
You understood that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to be sure since you weren't interested in the Ron child. We are here on a continuation of a final hearing which started on May 1st. Mr. Jackson, I don't see your client in the waiting room. Were you expecting him?
This is Larry Adams. I'm substituted in for Mr. Jackson.
No, Mr. Jackson's with us.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
Judge, I appeared at this. I sent over, Mr. Adams had signed off on a motion to substitute, and I sent that order to the court, I think Friday. And I was just showing up this morning to make sure that happened.
Okay, I don't know that I signed it or not. You're withdrawing and Mr. Adams is going to represent Mr. Horn, is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Okay. Was that Mr. Adams, were you retained or?
No, Your Honor. What happened is I appeared for Mr. Jackson last week, and Mr. Jackson had not talked to Mr. Horn.
Okay.
And I was able to talk to him and find out what his story and what he wanted and those kinds of things. So we felt it better for me to just continue.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. I don't know if I've signed the order or not. Haley, do you know, have I signed it?
Your Honor, I do show that you have signed it. This is Teresa.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then Mr. Jackson, then you are free to go.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. And Miss Christie is not with us. She represents the mother, Miss Ron, and Miss Ron is not with us. This case was set for 9:30. It's now 9:39. And let me just ask, we recessed this case with the understanding that at least Miss Ron wanted to sign an affidavit of voluntary relinquishment. Do we know, has she done that?
Not to my knowledge, Your Honor, but the department is asking to reopen.
Okay.
Do I have Christina Hunter in the waiting room, Your Honor? Because that's my case.
Yes, ma'am. She's the only one in the waiting room. So let me get her in.
And Tippy, do you know if either parent has signed a relinquishment at this point?
Not to my knowledge, I have not received any emails to that effect. Christina might know more than me, though.
Thank you, Your Honor. Christina, let's talk about Mr. Horn's service plan. Mr. Horn was present at the status hearing. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if I indicated at the last hearing that he was not present at the status hearing, I would have been wrong, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, we also asked the court to take judicial notice that the status hearing order reflects that Mr. Horn appeared.
Okay, so noted.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Hunter, did Mr. Horn participate in the creation of that family plan?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so based on that, he was aware of what he was going to be ordered by the court to do. Is that correct?
Yes, he was.
And then subsequently, he appeared at the status hearing where that plan was made an order of the court. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Following that, what actions did you take to attempt to engage him in services?
I tried to reach out to him via phone. I tried to actually talk to him in person as well. All the attempts that I made to try to get him to engage were non-successful.
Can you tell us about the attempts to engage that occurred in person?
Give me just a second. Let me refer back to my records here and I can get you specific dates. I actually met with Robert for the first time on July the 26th. That's whenever we did the family strengths and needs assessments at that time. And we talked about his family plan of service. We kind of got to know each other a little bit better in regards to his background, what his strengths and his needs were. We discussed his living situation as well as the drug issues and stuff like that that were concerning. And then I met with him again. I actually went to the resident, so that was his girlfriend's at the time, trying to locate him because he had refused to give me his current actual address. And when I arrived, he let me know that it was not an appropriate time to actually speak with him at that time and asked me to come back at a later date.
Okay. And what was that date again?
Actually, 9/13.
So September 13th of 2022. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did you go back another time in person to try to engage him in services?
Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to refer back to my record to find it.
That's okay. I'm not asking for an exact date. Was there?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Okay. All right, then, Ms. Gutierrez, anything further from the department?
Nothing further from the department, Your Honor. We rest.
Okay. And Mr. Adams, did you have any further witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Rivera?
No witnesses.
Thank you. And Mr. Ingram?
No witnesses.
Mr. Ingram, recommendations?
Your Honor, I believe it to be in Abigail's best interest that both the mother and father's parental rights be terminated, that intervener Krista Bowles be named as permanent sole managing conservator, the department on all other court-ordered relationships be dismissed.
All right. All right, give me just a second here. And based upon the evidence I've heard both today and at our previous final hearing on May 1st, I do find that it's in the best interest of the child aboriginal rights of the mother be terminated. I'll terminate those rights. Give me just a second. I want to be sure to look at something from my last notes.
Judge, and I'm not sure if you got my text or not, but no relinquishments have been filed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. I'll terminate Ms. Run's rights based on Texas Family Code Section 161.001, subsections B1D, E, N as in Nancy, O, and R. I further find that it's in the best interest of the child. I terminate the parental rights of the father, Robert Horn. I'll terminate those rights today based on Texas Family Code Section 161.001, subsections. Give me just a minute again. E, N as in Nancy, and O. I will name Krista Bowles sole permanent managing conservator. The department and all other court-appointed relationships will be dismissed after all appellate and de novo periods have expired. Mr. Adams, if you happen to have contact with Mr. Horn, explain to him his appellate and de novo rights.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, since we have a final resolution in this case with a permanent managing conservator, there will be no further hearings set. Ms. Bowles, congratulations. And we will stand in recess. For those of you involved, I'll be back.